Anyway, after the charges were dropped, I was contacted by the administration here in Nevada and offered a job. At first I thought, hey, occult sciences sounds fun, but then I found out my ex Miguel worked there. Same case for the quantum labs. Song, Caleb, and I are still friends, but it would be kinda awkward, so I picked xenosciences, and here we are.
Wow. Did they ever find that lasagna?
I'm not sure the lasagna wants to be found.
Well, Adora, I wouldn't rather have any other mad scientist looking after me.
Oh, that's sweet of you, 28. Though I prefer eccentric. I'm no Baxter Stockman or anything.
Who?
From Ninja Turtles?
What's Ninja Turtles?
What?
Look, my homeworld receives random broadcasts from Earth sometimes, but for the most part, if a trader ship didn't smuggle it to Blobbin from Earth, we haven't heard of it.
Well, we're gonna need to fix that.
Wait, I thought we were gonna talk about—
Priorities have changed. The Elden Ring review is cancelled.
Are you allowed to do that?
It's my show, 28, and if I decide it's turtle time, then it's turtle time. Ludo, 28 requires a full media injection. Subroutine, turtle power. We need shows, movies, games. Bring up the action figures from cold storage if you need to. I don't care how haunted they are.
Cold storage retrieval requires administrator privileges.
Really? Approved. Just get those toys up here ASAP.
Am I allowed to object?
You just said you wouldn't rather have any other mad scientist looking after you, right?
Yeah?
Then just trust me and allow me to play you the song of my people.
I like it.
Me too.
The year is meme number 1984. The comic book crash of the 90s is little more than a ghost on the horizon, and buyers walking into their store of choice would be surprised to see a new title sitting on the rack among their favorite heroes. Its name somehow the perfect mix between absurd and catchy. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's just something about that name that screams, yep, this is awesome. The original black and white comic, co-created by Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman as the flagship of their newly founded Mirage studio, introduced many staples of the mythos people are familiar with today. Four brothers, turtles mutated by a mutagenic ooze and trained in the art of ninjutsu by their master Splinter, waging war against a ninja clan known as the Foot and their leader, the Shredder. Even with something as goofy as Ninja Turtles named after Italian artisans, the comic mixed silly with gritty in a way that no doubt played a big factor in its initial success. This wasn't your dad's X-Men, this wasn't Daredevil or the Teen Titans, this was something entirely new, and suffice to say, people wanted more. So much more that in 1987, Mirage Studios sold the toy rights to Playmates, and when you sell the toy rights to something in 1987, you're creating more than just toys, because nothing compels people to shell out their hard-earned cash for articulated plastic quite like a Saturday morning cartoon. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hit pop culture like a freight train in a half shell, and the 87 cartoon was a big factor in making that happen. While it was decidedly lighter in tone than the original comic, the changes it made to the Turtles universe would have a permanent impact going forward. Most notably the addition of new mutant characters like the Shredder's goons Bebop and Rocksteady, and the decision to give each turtle a unique mask color to better distinguish them in group shots. I, for one, greatly appreciate this, because as much as I've enjoyed what I've read of the Mirage run, sometimes you can't tell which turtle is which unless they're being referred to by name or holding their signature weapon. Otherwise, they all may as well be Leonardo.
Leonardo, the leader in blue?
Does anything it takes to get his ninjas through?
God, we're dorks.
Personally, I love it. And so did tons of people around the world. In 1990, a live-action film adaptation of the Turtles would hit theaters and become the highest-grossing independent film at the time. It looked like Turtle Mania was unstoppable, and with kids tuning in every Saturday, toys flying off the shelves, and evidently tickets being sold to a TMNT live stage performance, what even is this?
It's beautiful. Shut up.
So you can bet your ass they made video games. No, not that one. Never that one. He's fucking dead, Splinter. Matter of fact, we're not talking about any of the games based on the 87 cartoon today, because Adora here didn't grow up with the 87 Turtles. In 2003, 7 years after the original series' final episode in 1996, 4Kids Entertainment launched a new adaptation of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, opting to adapt storylines from the original Mirage comic and keeping close to its original tone while still incorporating elements from the 87 series.
That's one of my favorite things about TMNT. Each adaptation draws upon elements from previous ones, adding its own spin on the Turtles' mythos while paying tribute to what came before. Most of the time. The point is, the 2003 team were my Turtles. They're how I found the series, so they're special to me. Like how the live-action Transformers films introduced me to that franchise.
Oh, do you want to show me those sometime?
No. No.
Well then, welcome to SammunTV, and today we're looking at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a 3D beat-em-up by Konami released in 2003. Since the TMNT's nature as a group of four lends naturally to local multiplayer, many of their games play in the style of arcade beat-em-ups, much like the Fantastic Four video game we talked about in our first video. Oh, and speaking of, let's just label all the games I reviewed before the fuck sucks system as sucks, and remember that these are the personal opinions of a literal alien, and that if you feel those games fuck, that's valid, I just didn't enjoy them. Today's game follows the trend by adapting the 2003 series into a multiplayer beat-em-up, though curiously, it does not feature support for more than 2 players, something that would be remedied in its sequel, Battle Nexus. Despite this, note that my review will be of the single-player experience because Adora is forbidden from playing games with me as to not risk tampering with the experiment. It sucks for me too, Dora. Hey, when I kick Shredder's ass, it'll be for you.
Can you do it as Raph?
Raph it is. In the world of licensed video games, you can either adapt the story directly, adapt the story with some tweaks to serve the game you're trying to make, or do something entirely different, like an unofficial sequel or a storyline meant to fit between seasons of a show. TMNT 2003's game belongs primarily to the first camp, adapting episodes from the show's first season for the bulk of its story, which unfolds across 6 acts, most of which are named for the episode that they adapt. Act 1, Things Change, is based on the titular series premiere while incorporating story elements from the episodes A Better Mousetrap, Attack of the Mousers, and Meet Casey Jones, making Act 1 a consolidation of the first 4 episodes of the cartoon. The game uses footage from the show for cutscenes at the beginning and end of an act, and special events can cause additional cutscenes in the middle stages. But we'll get to that soon enough. For now, Act 1 begins just like the episode, with Splinter in the middle of a training session with the Turtles when a small group of robots dig their way into their lair nestled within New York City's sewer system, causing the roof to collapse and separating the Turtles from their master. Once we get into gameplay, yeah, this looks great! From a visual standpoint, the game does a great job of translating the cartoon's art style into a 3D cel-shaded world. Details drawn onto surfaces give New York the same comic book visual. The city streets are bathed in blue moonlight, and while the Turtles look like they only modeled one of them and then duplicated it, the Turtles are easy to tell apart during gameplay, not just because of their weapons, but thanks to their mask color, differing scale tones, and unique animations. Oh, and the fact that the Turtles don't shut the fuck up.
Slice and dice! Slice and dice! Slice and dice! How about that? Out of my way, Nip! Now I'm mad! Booyah! Sorry! Ow! 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 Ow!
Really? That's my only complaint about the Turtles from a presentation standpoint. This game commits the cardinal sin of attaching a voice line to frequently used actions, something that's annoying and sometimes funny on a boss, but unforgivable for a player character. Donatello's barks are so long that he can rarely finish them.
Anyone for stickball? I have a stick! Turtle whack!
This game is a barrage of sounds, an orchestra of weapon strikes, mouser chirps, enemy death noises, arcade-style bleeps, and explosions. But the thing you'll notice above all else is the Turtles non-stop alternating between only 2 or 3 combat barks. It gets old fast. That and the progress arrow. Oh, and if you don't like all these action words popping off of enemies when I beat them, you can turn that off in the options, but I like them. The enemies look good too. Mousers, purple dragon thugs, robots, mutants, and various Foot Clan ninjas. They all click with the art style, and you can easily tell how each one operates to prioritize targets. Starting from the sewer in stage 1, we have the bulk of our arsenal at our disposal right out the gate. The downside, it's not a whole lot. It goes without saying, but each turtle plays a little different in ways that reflect their fighting style. Leonardo is an all-arounder, good but not amazing in terms of speed, damage, and range. Michelangelo is the fastest and does decent damage, but his range is limited and he plays best by dashing around and peppering enemies with combos. Donatello, however, has the best range of the 4, though he's not very fast, and his bow lets him hit multiple enemies easily. Raphael hits the hardest but has the least range, so you're going to be running right up on enemies to take them out. Every turtle has the same move list, and that move list consists of the most basic types of combos. Light heavy, light heavy, light heavy, stuff like that. Or an uppercut that can damage enemies on the floor. No heavy combos, not even something like light heavy light, nothing combos with the uppercut, so you're strapped for options. At least there are combos, we're doing better than X-Blades, but that's not exactly a high bar. We get a jump attack after Act 1. I'm not exactly sure why the game withholds it from you right away, and depending on your turtle, it's more useful than others. Michelangelo's, for instance, allows him to float and registers a new hit nearly every frame. The downside is that it sounds like this. It figures that when the game gives you a good move, they nerf it by attaching an obnoxious voice clip. Our last mechanics include a dash, functional and very useful for evading attacks since there is no block button, and ninja stars, which are sorta temperamental to aim, have a limited supply and come in standard, electric, and explosive flavor. You'll find more ninja stars in breakable crates, along with various food pickups to restore your health. Pizza, naturally being a full heal, and I think they're crystals, which provide temporary boosts to your attack, speed, or defense. You'll also find these scroll things, makimono, and those unlock concept art, which is neat. I didn't try to collect them all, and some can only be collected by playing as a given turtle. More on that in just a minute. You may have noticed that heart in the top middle. That's your life counter, and normally it would be counting down from 6 if I hadn't used an action replay code for unlimited lives. But Salmon, that's cheating! Yes, back to the game, we make our way through the streets of New York, and if you're playing this stage as Raphael, it's time to address the turtle-specific collectibles, because every turtle's playthrough is personalized. The game tracks the progress of each turtle individually. Even if Donatello is on Act 3, if you start playing Leonardo, it's back to Act 1. Donnie will still be on Act 3, but you can't swap between turtles mid-playthrough, which is unfortunate because that was one of the things I liked about Fantastic Four. You weren't married to one hero if you didn't want to be Mr. Fantastic the whole game. If an arcade beat-em-up progresses the same way for every character, I'd prefer the ability to swap around when I use a credit, but TMNT 2003 instead chooses to have turtle-specific collectibles and story events. There aren't many, but they're neat. And before you ask, in multiplayer, player 1's turtle is the one that makes progress. If you swap turtles next time you play, it's back to Act 1. Raphael's first story event is meeting Casey Jones, a local vigilante whose methods of dealing with the purple dragons prove too harsh even for Raph's taste. Casey doesn't take kindly to Raph's objections, and we get a little boss fight. If I'd been playing as Leonardo, I would have passed through this zone without ever seeing Casey. That's cool. I like it. I wish they did more stuff like this. It's a good idea, just woefully underutilized by the game. After we take care of Casey, he explains his plans to get payback against the purple dragons for burning down his father's store when he was a child, and the turtles agree to help. I won't be doing the thing I did in the Area 51 video where I talked about every single stage, since at its core, the game really is an arcade beat-em-up, and many levels could be described as a hallway full of sequentially generating punching bags. If the stage has no story event, it's only getting a passing mention. Stage 3 ends with a fight against the purple dragon's leader, Dragonface, the first mini-boss that anyone but Raph would face off against. He's basically just a tougher purple dragon thug. His punch will put you on your ass if it connects, but the fight teaches you to dash behind bosses and combo them whenever possible before dashing away. Chip damage is the name of the game here, though explosive and electric ninja stars will take a nice amount of health away. Stage 4 sees our introduction to the Foot Clan, though there's no real explanation as to why we're on the rooftop of Stocktronic Industries. Foot ninjas come in two flavors at the start, Sword Boys and Staff Boys, and the Staff Boys throw ninja stars, so I always prioritize them. We're going to be fighting a lot of these guys as we progress. We break into the lab, and seemingly by providence, we arrive just as mad genius Baxter Stockman is planning to kill his assistant, April O'Neil. Baxter sends out a giant mouser robot to serve as our end-of-act boss, and so long as you watch out for its spinning attack and dash away from the missiles, it shouldn't take too long to whittle down. That's Act 1 cleared, April is safe, and the turtles reunite with Splinter in their new underground home. A bit messy in mixing together the storylines of those 4 episodes, but overall a good opening act. After that is our first dojo stage, optional challenges which give the turtles additional upgrades like their jump attack or increases to their offensive power. These are also unique to the turtle, at least the second and third are, which is pretty cool. The first challenge is the same for everyone. Break open the boxes with your jump attack and find the 3 makimono. A simple enough challenge, though I'm a little surprised by Splinter's decision to store live explosives in some of them. Where Act 1 combined 4 episodes into one storyline, Act 2 adapts a single episode by the same name. The act begins with April having called the turtles over to stay the night at her antique shop in the wake of strange robberies reported on her block. Those break-ins are the work of Nano, an escaped colony of nanomachines that had developed a single childlike personality and been brought into a life of crime by its adoptive father, a lowly pickpocket named Harry. Casey intercepts Nano when he tries to break into April's shop, and the turtles spring into action. After that, there's not a whole lot to say. Considering this act is based off of a single episode, there's not a whole lot in the ways of story, and after our first fight with Nano in Stage 1, it's just making our way through the combat hallway, fighting these act-exclusive robots, thugs, and mousers until Stage 5, where we fight Nano once at the start of the stage and again at the end. As a last-ditch effort, Nano gets super big, and we need to fight them off by uppercutting these explosive barrels into their face. If you run out, you better learn how to use your jump attack, because there's not much else that can hurt it. I commend this boss fight for not being a big wall of hit points, but I also condemn it for making me listen to Michelangelo's air attack. Donatello picks them up with a heavy-duty magnet, but Harry cuts the power and accidentally drops Nano into a burning pit, melting them down. Kinda sad, like, Nano was like a kid? That's fucked up. Decent act though. Kind of a weird follow-up to have 3 stages in a row of hallways, but it's fine. Unlike the previous 2 stages, Act 3 has no in-series equivalent and tells an original story involving the turtles coming into conflict with a mechanical duplicate, the Turtlebot. The act begins with the team watching a news report on a series of art thefts in New York and how authorities were blaming a giant turtle based on footage of the Turtlebot in action. Declaring the Turtlebot's action the dishonor to all turtles, the 4 move to pursue and avenge the reputation of shelled reptiles everywhere. An admirable cause for sure. While the act itself is pretty bare bones for story, just like Nano. After an encounter with the Foot Clan Enforcer Hun at the stage's beginning, we're locked in the throes of the battle hallway. We're introduced to a new type of foot ninja that goes invisible, but their cloaking is broken once you knock them down. They have more health than the other ninjas, but they're not too big of a problem. The act's finale takes place atop an airborne freight container full of the stolen artwork, providing us with limited space to maneuver and high winds that push us around. Cool stuff, and the Turtlebot has the power to change which turtles' combat style it's copying, so you can't get too comfortable fighting it any one way. When the bot goes down, the turtles restore the stolen artwork, clearing Turtlekind of this dishonorable act. The second dojo stage provides a unique challenge for each turtle, ranging from defeating 30 ninjas without taking damage to dealing a 10-hit combo. And our reward is a permanent damage boost. Act 4 loosely adapts the episode Darkness on the Edge of Town, and begins with the turtles skateboarding outside the Metropolitan Museum of Art during a citywide power outage when they discover the Foot Clan is ransacking the museum in search of an artifact known as the Goblin Blade. If you already guessed that this chapter doesn't really have any additional story beyond the beginning and end, you've got the beat of this game down pat. We're making our way through the various sections of the museum, fighting a lot more of the cloaking ninjas, and we're introduced to the Foot Bees, these annoying flying enemies that alternate between use of a machine gun or a spinning laser attack. If you haven't learned how to use your jump attack effectively, these are going to be irritating to deal with, and there's only going to be more and more going forward. It's around here where I feel my patience with the game wear a little thin. I despise flying enemies that spend a lot of time well outside my combat range. Even if I can safely avoid their attacks, they're wasting my time. Things pick up when we hit the Egyptian exhibit, putting us through a mini boss rush of mystic ninjas controlling the forces of earth, wind, fire, water, and metal. After we handle the Mystic Ninjas, it's off to take care of the Foot Gunner Ninja, a heavily armored ninja with a flamethrower and a riot shield. The same logic with other bosses applies here, dash behind them and land a combo. If you can avoid their flamethrower, it leaves them wide open. That's Act 4 down. A little tedious at the start, but the Mystic Ninjas are pretty memorable, and we haven't seen the last of them. Next, we've got another multi-episode act, adapting a 3-part storyline by the same name. The act begins in the Turtles' lair with Donatello studying some strange crystals he discovered while Raphael and Michelangelo spar nearby.
Hands up, Mikey! Ha! Secret tunnel!
Curious, the turtles descend into the tunnel to investigate, and as soon as stage 1 begins, we discover that they're not alone. The main enemy of this act are mutants, not of the Teenage Ninja or Turtle variety, but mutants all the same, and they're not much tankier than your average foot ninja. I like this act, though it feels a bit shorter than the others, most likely due to how long Tengu felt by comparison, and it's only 4 stages not counting the boss. What it lacks in length, it makes up for in its environment, breaking away from the familiar cityscape to show us an underground world of caverns and simulated ruins overrun with mutant bugs. We have 2 mini-bosses to deal with, Razorclaw and Quarry, and while Razorclaw is a bit of an annoyance with his ability to attack behind himself and a tendency to just run around endlessly in circles, Quarry is more of a guessing game where you need to spot which of his teleportation points he's popping out of and smack him before he can attack. Depending on your turtle, you might fight Quarry or Razorclaw earlier than others. Stage 4 reveals the remains of a Foot Clan research facility, as well as more mutants kept in stasis. An abandoned terminal explains that this base was focused on creating obedient mutants conditioned for the heat and pressure underground using a serum derived from the strange crystals, but the resulting creatures retained their human intelligence and revolted against their captors. Quarry approaches the turtles, and realizing they are not affiliated with the Foot Clan, apologizes for their earlier aggression. The mutants we've been fighting have since lost their minds to their animal instincts, but Quarry and Razorclaw remained sane due to the power of the crystals. Guiding the turtles to the exit, the group is attacked by the act's end boss, a giant flying mutant named King Nail, and, well, he's my least favorite boss, and you can imagine why. Your best bet to get a ground combo is to lure him into doing his slam attack, which he's pretty picky about doing the further into the fight you get. More often than not, he'll just spit acid or fly around with his claws outstretched, resulting in a boss fight that takes an uncomfortable amount of time to clear just waiting for him to be vulnerable. Your jump attack works, but it's nickel and diming either way. The turtles prepare to return topside, but the underground mutants cannot follow because of their dependency on the crystal, and the 4 promise to return for Quarry and Razorclaw should they find a way to cure their condition. On this, Act 5 comes to a close. The final dojo stage is named Ordeal, and if you're playing as Leonardo, it sure is, because we're facing off against Master Splinter himself. The other turtles will just have to fight Leonardo wearing the Shredder's helmet, a considerably easier fight since you're perhaps familiar with Leonardo's moves by then, and may know how to work around him. Splinter can infinite combo you if you're not careful, and one wrong move can cost you the bulk of your health bar. Passing this stage gives another permanent damage boost, but once all 4 turtles have cleared it, we get another cutscene where Splinter finally reveals his connection to the Shredder, that he had once been the pet rat of a ninja master named Kamato Yoshi, and the Shredder, whose true name was Orokusaki, had slain his owner before Splinter found the turtles as babies. It was from Yoshi that Splinter had learned the ways of the ninja, and it was to avenge his master's death that Splinter had trained them. The time had finally come to do battle with Orokusaki and lay Master Yoshi's spirit to rest. With all 4 turtles now masters of ninjutsu and understanding their true strength as a team, you unlock the Genbu technique, a powerful screen-clearing attack limited to 3 uses every stage. Now, it's time for justice. Adapting the 3-parter Return to New York, the Turtles, Casey Jones and April O'Neil storm the Foot Clan's skyscraper headquarters, starting on the ground floor and battling their way up to the top. If you're playing as Michelangelo, Stage 1 begins with a fight against Hun, after which you'll be facing the Mystic Ninjas of Earth and Metal before fighting against an elite foot ninja whose weapon of choice depends on your selected turtle. Stage 2 will have us fight the Mystic Ninja of Fire as we traverse an inexplicable Japanese garden in the building. I've learned not to think about it too hard. We're fighting a ninja warrior, of course there's a Japanese garden in the middle of a New York skyscraper. Stage 3 is the Foot's genetic research lab, and while you may think the main enemy here is the Mystic Wind Ninja or the strengthened mutants in these tubes, our real nemesis is the intercom.
Security personnel are requested to proceed with immediate removal. Unidentified persons have been detected within the research facility. All security personnel are requested to proceed with immediate removal. Unidentified persons have been detected within the research facility. All security personnel are requested to proceed with immediate removal.
Stage 4 is the Mouser Arsenal, and it throws 2 giant Mousers at you at once. If you were curious why I played with unlimited lives, it's because I'm not afraid to admit I probably couldn't beat this game without them, and because I think life-based systems are kinda smelly for PS2 era beat-em-ups. We beat the Mousers, push deeper into the stage where we destroy their main generator, and Stage 5 has us backtracking through the demolished arsenal. If you're playing as Donatello, he gets a unique boss fight with Baxter Stockman in a mech suit, which is kinda frustrating at the start because it requires you to air attack his face, which if he isn't covering, he's firing rockets at you. After the cockpit glass shatters, you can attack him normally, but it's still annoying. The other turtles just need to fight another elite foot ninja. Stage 6 is a mostly straight corridor full of traps, and you'll be able to navigate it pretty easily. Just keep an eye open for shadows on the floor and try to trigger the trapdoors without passing through them, then dash through them as they open back up. Another elite foot ninja awaits you at the very end, and finally, it's time to shred the Shredder. Shredder's fight is befitting of final boss status, as he hits like a truck and plays very aggressively. I found myself dashing around a lot and throwing electric ninja stars whenever I had time to whittle his health down, and he still took a life or 2 each time I played. Yeah, unlimited lives was a good call. Whereas the true strength of the Turtles comes in their ability to fight as a group, allowing them to best the Shredder with their numbers and coordinated efforts, this game wants us to prove that each Turtle can throw hands with him and take him down solo. To truly beat TMNT 2003, you must play Act 6 and defeat the Shredder as all 4 Turtles. When Stage 7 is completed with the 4th turtle, Raphael in this case, we move on to Stage 8, the Shinto temple at the building's peak, where Orokusaki awaits us, no longer wearing his Shredder armor or bearing the sword of Tengu. To show us we have earned his respect, Saki intends to kill Raphael with his own bare hands. I'd gotten used to final bosses and games being a letdown, so when Orokusaki comes out swinging, the pressure is on. I could not beat this fight with only 6 lives, and that would require beating the entire act preceding it without dying once, so if you like beat-em-ups that intend to chew you up and spit you out, this game fucks. If you like 2003 Turtles, this game fucks. I'm bad at this game and need cheats to beat it, but even with the threat of a game over removed from the equation, this game fucks. Fighting Orokusaki as Raphael is like getting in a fist fight with a steamroller. You're gonna get slapped around unless you learn to carefully dash in for a few hits and not get greedy. You know, like me. I feel like Donatello's range would give him some room to breathe in this fight, but Saki has no interest in giving you that chance. If he turns red, I wouldn't even suggest trying to hit him unless you're looking to audition as a bowling pin in a juggling act. I pop all 3 of my Genbu attacks on him and spend the next 3 minutes whittling him down, after which a cutscene shows the 4 turtles teaming up to use their secret technique against the Shredder, putting him down for the count. With the weight of his master's death off his shoulders, Master Splinter congratulates his sons, and the turtles return to the sewer victorious. For completing the game as each turtle, you gain a password that unlocks different costumes, including a biker outfit for Raphael and Michelangelo's Turtle Titan costume. But when you first defeat Orokusaki, you gain a password that unlocks an entirely new character, Master Splinter himself. And yes, I did replay the entire game as Splinter just to defeat Orokusaki again, after which I got a password to give Leonardo unlimited ninja stars. Neat. Splinter hits like a rodent-shaped bus, killing most enemies in 2 hits and taking a sizable chunk out of bosses with each strike. He's not terribly fast, but he's a lot of fun to play. He has no story events, sadly, though he does fight Baxter Stockman's mech suit during Act 6, so that's neat. Another password will unlock the ability to play as Casey Jones, but I didn't play through the entire game again with him because he seems to be largely similar to Splinter, killing most enemies in about 2 to 3 hits, but he can't throw ninja stars at all, and his uppercut doesn't seem to hurt grounded enemies. Still cool you can play as Casey, of course, but I think I'm good on this game for now. Aside from story mode, challenge mode is unlocked by defeating Orokusaki, a boss rush that must be completed on 1 life, so nope, not playing that.
There's also a versus mode where you can play as various characters unlocked through your playthroughs, but since I'm playing solo, we can't really look at that. Overall, TMNT 2003 is a good time. I wouldn't recommend playing it 4 times in a row without a buffer period as I did, but it's a fun game despite some honestly forgivable shortcomings. I wish the combat had a bit more variety, but what you're given to work with is certainly better than some other games I've played. It's fine, I just wish there was more to it. I also wish Konami hadn't attached those irritating voice lines to the attacks, but you just sort of zone them out as you reach that state of beat-em-up zen and just focus on taking down ninjas and thugs alike. In terms of difficulty, this game might scratch the itch of those wanting a challenge during the later boss fights, though it's a pretty level curve up until that point, so if you want all the bosses to be challenging, you might find yourself wanting. During the normal stages, the enemies are only really a threat in groups, and that's provided they have ranged weapons. Otherwise, a turtle can take on a whole group and be fine provided you watch out for any telegraphed attacks. Of course, I had unlimited lives, so take any opinion of this game's challenge with a grain of salt, but I remember rarely dying during fights with average grunts, especially since the game does a decent job of providing health pickups and crates. Personally, I think I had the most fun playing as Donatello and Michelangelo, which makes sense since Donnie is my favorite turtle. I enjoy Donnie's range and ability to send a whole group flying, and Michelangelo's speed and air attacks make easy work of the game's later opponents. It feels satisfying to weave in and out of combat as him, and I only hope the sequel works to resolve these game's issues by adding more combat options and expanding on what each turtle can do within the game. As an adaptation of the show, I think it works well. It gets a little loose at times, but it still provided an enjoyable retelling of the cartoon's first season, and this trend would continue with Battle Nexus adapting the second season and Mutant Nightmare adapting the third. I haven't played either game. They could be crap, but I guess we'll perhaps find out in the future. But for now, I'll say it again. If you're looking for some arcade fun or love yourself some heroes in a half shell, this game fucks. Alright, I think that about wraps things up. So if we're just not doing Elden Ring, does that mean Turok is next, or...
Wait, we haven't done Question Box yet.
Question Box?
Yeah, we've received some questions from your viewers. I thought it would be fun to answer them together.
Oh, okay. What have we got?
Let's see. Dear Dr. Balone, how does one escape from Nevada? Are there any weak points in the security that could be exploited? Specifically ones that could be exploited by someone who is small as a loaf of bread, but has a shell and no hands. Sincerely, not a subject escapee. For the record, 908, we have spent the approximate budget of a Marvel film on fortifying and turtle-proofing our facility. You won't set so much as a flipper outside unless the administrator allows it, and in that case, you'll probably be on a turtle-proof leash.
That's a thing?
If 908 believes it's a thing, it's a thing. Alright, next.
Dear Doc, do y'all have one of them Stargates down where y'all at in Nevada? Is that where the blob thing came from? Why you making him play video games? Shouldn't he be doing alien things? Sincerely, Bubba.
Well, Mr. Bubba, our Stargate program was actually decommissioned in the 2000s after Roland Emmerich threatened to sue. As for our project with 28 here, the show is intended as a live study of how an alien responds to and interacts with the media of our planet, to compare the similarities between the cultures of their home world and ours. Additionally, we have a theory that people getting to know 28 will reduce the chances of widespread panic should the Blobbins ever make contact on a larger scale. We tried this before with the television series ALF, though now that we have a real alien, I'm hoping it proves more effective.
And this is the alien thing I do. I was an aspiring game critic back on Blobbin, and I'll be the first to admit that we've been in a dry spell for creativity. Our newest game was Duty of Shooty 40. I hoped bringing some games from off-world would inspire new ideas, so I flew to Earth and popped into a GameStop in,
Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah, that, and now I'm here. Is that all we've got?
Just one more. I think this is from another one of our specimens, but they're considerably more well-behaved than 908. Dear Dr. Balone, what does it feel like to give 28 head pats? Sincerely, not Subject 101. Surprisingly fluffy. You wouldn't guess it from how smooth he looks, but 28 is actually covered in a dense coat of fur suited for his planet's climate.
Blobbin isn't a snowball, but it's generally chillier than Earth, so it helps to have a thick coat. Earth is warmer than I'm used to, but Adora keeps my cell cool, and I vent the rest off through my ears.
Alright, that about wraps up the question box for now. Keep those questions coming, and we'll bring you answers.
Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and Adora and I will see you next time. Hey Adora, wanna play Shredder's Revenge? I won't tell if you don't tell.
Ludo, roll outro.
From Playmates.